What's up, my dudes? So we got us another update for MXGP Pro, and I know a lot of you guys wanted me to come in here and check this one out, so yeah, this is another one of those it's kind of like a bit of a whip update, bit of a physics update. I'm not exactly sure how much it's really doing here, so we're right here on the update page. This came out September 13th, so what is that, like about a week ago, something like that. This is patch 5. I know a lot of you guys are kind of wondering, is it worth coming back to the game, that kind of thing. So let's get on here and just kind of read this real quick, take a look at it. So it says, MXGP Pro keeps on it, giving adrenaline, mud, and thrills to all MX lovers. As you know, though, our goal is to keep improving the game as much as possible. That's why in the last few patches we introduced major improvements to wet riding, side respawn, starting grid UI, and AI. In the next few hours, and guys, listen here closely, okay? They say, we'll be releasing a new update to PS4, Xbox One, and PC/Steam that will include new major improvements. So here we go again down this. It's major improvements. It's a major update. It's major fixes, and I highly doubt that. So don't get twisted by their wordage here, okay? Them saying major, because I highly doubt it's going to be major, or we have two different definitions of what major means, because major means when you hop on there, you're like, holy shit, this is totally different, and it was nothing like that on the first whip update. So, and they still called it like a major, sort of a major update throughout the different little, the different little points that they had shown on their original sort of whip update, scrub update thing. So, I'm looking at this like, even though they're saying major, I doubt it's going to be all that major. So either way, okay, this is where it gets into the whip and the scrub thing, right? So it says better rider position. You need to listen to this closely, because the way they word shit here, it's kind of like you got to look at it in a kind of a certain angle to really understand what the hell they're talking about, okay? So, better rider position while midair, during landings, and scrubs. So, just because it's better rider position doesn't really mean that it's actually better whips or scrubs. You see what I'm saying? So I don't even know if this is the patch that a lot of people are talking about, like, oh, they fixed the whips, or it's like a whip and a scrub update. I don't even know, because the way I'm seeing it here is it's not so much a whip or a scrub update, it's more of a better rider position. This isn't even really like a physics update. Doesn't look like to me. This is more of just a visual. It's like visually better rider position. Hell, I don't know. It's so confusing how they word this shit. But either way, the next one is like enhance the visual animation of scrubs during replays and rewind. Why don't you enhance the visual animation of scrubs during the actual time when you're playing the game? How about that? Like, no one gives a shit about replay and rewind. Like, why are they even doing that? I don't understand. Like, yeah, it's cool to go back in the replays, but dog, your whip system's not even where it needs to be, like, and you're worried about what it looks like in replays and rewind? I don't know. That's just me. That's a little weird that they're even doing that, but, okay, it says, in quick match lobbies, players can now mark themselves as ready, improved overall stability. So, to me, this looks like a pretty minor update. Not major, minor. Alright, so let me actually back this up a little bit here. Okay, here we are in the actual game now. Let's see what we got going on. So yeah, it's kind of confusing, because the way they worded that, like better rider position, that could be 100% just a visual thing, or it could be an actual, like, physically changing the way the physics of it are. So it's just a little confusing. I'm not so sure, but I just bet you it's not a major, it's just not going to be a major thing. Whoa, my God. Holy flippin'. I don't think I've ever flipped a bike around like that before. That's a little weird. Okay. So I haven't played with this new thing, like, at all. Have not went in there and, tried to test this out or anything like that. So one thing I'm noticing right off the bat, oh man, running into some little off-track banners there. Let's see, I'm trying to get, what the fuck? It does feel different. It definitely feels different. I'm not going to lie to you. This is, it almost, weirdly enough, and I don't know if this is just me thinking this, but it almost feels like I can pull back more than I used to, which is really weird. I don't know if anybody else is realizing that, or if that's just me or whatever. It's such a, like, your brain can sort of stutter. It's such a, like, kind of a, your brain can play tricks on you in any motocross game, but especially when you're going from, like, update to update and trying to figure out exactly what it's doing and that kind of thing, because you're trying to remember what it was before, and then you're like, okay, it's kind of like this, or it's not, but it is definitely doing something different. I feel like I can almost notice this more than I could the update before. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh my god, the whips are just so amazing and they're totally fixed now. It's not like that level or anything, but it's kind of like, you can just tell there's a little bit more movement. When you come up off the jump face, it feels like there's more of that, like you can actually hook up on the bike. I don't know if that's just me or what, but to me it almost seems like with some of these updates they've been adding to MXGP Pro, it's almost like they're adding more of how it was in the official Monster Energy Supercross game. You know, some of their stuff they tried to add in this, they realized it was absolute crap, and so it's almost like they're kind of going back to the way it was in the official Monster Energy Supercross game. That's just the way it feels like to me. You know, it's like their physics are just slowly but surely going right back to the way they were in the official Monster Energy Supercross game. So it does seem to be easier to, like, you know, pull up way too much over the jump face, and where you just kind of, you know, you Larry loop out, or you try to scrub way too hard and you just pop off the bike. That's something I'm noticing that's happening that wasn't happening before. So obviously there's some sort of, like, more control or something going on here. You know, you can turn, you can scrub more, you can lean back more. There's more of like a lean back function. Man, I don't know. I really hate to be saying that if it's really not doing that, and I'm just like kind of imagining that in my mind, right? I'm telling you, man, your brain can do crazy shit like that where it, like you're thinking it's doing something, but it's really not, you know? And like somebody that's playing this game every day is over there saying, no, Spencer, it's not actually doing that. Like, I just don't know. That's just what it feels like. That's just what it feels like. All I can tell you is what it feels like to me, right? There's not much more I can do here. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Let's see. I'm trying to get to some big... About the only damn track in this game that you can really test out, like, jumps and stuff on like that is going to be your actual compound, you know, SXMX tracks. A lot of your standard MXGP tracks in this game, they just have those mid, like, you know, 30, 40-foot size jumps. You can't really get it throwed on them, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to test that kind of stuff out on this, but... either way, yeah, it's just so weird, isn't it? Like, if they would just put one track in these milestone games that actually had, like, bigger jumps, like one track that had a 150-foot jump on it or something, right? You'd be able to test out the whip system so much better than you currently can. So what I am noticing, though, is when you kind of try to scrub, like, way before you're coming off the jump, or you try to whip way before you're coming off the jump, it seems to, sometimes it'll kind of have that, like, freak out type of effect to it, where the bike will just kind of, like, wobble in the air, and it's like you can still bring it back around where you'll land it decent, but, see, that's one thing I've always kind of found hard to do in these milestone games, is, like, really do a scrub versus a whip. You know what I'm saying? Like on reflex, the way you basically do a scrub is you turn super hard before you even come off the face. And it will actually do a scrub where you'll almost drag your, you know, your foot pegs on the jump face and stuff like that. So, but like if you're trying to do a whip in reflex, all you got to do is just wait until you kind of just right before you come off the jump face. You know, you're not turning, you're not carving super hard into the face. You're kind of doing it a little bit later, and that's how you do your, you know, your standard just whip it like all the way backwards style there. So you can do stuff that's totally different, like as far as scrub and whip. But I can't seem to figure out how to really do something different like that on a milestone game. I can't figure out how to make it scrub versus whip in a milestone game, because it's like it's just playing an animation. So it's almost like it's almost like there's just one way to do it, man. And that's kind of been the whole moral of the story here. You know, if you've been following a lot of the videos I've been making on this stuff, it's just like you're doing one thing every time you come off that jump face, man. One way to do it. That's all I really know what to tell you. Let me go to a different track here, see what I can do, see what I can manage on that. Okay, here we are in the actual MX compound here. I think that's some of the best tracks in the game, the SX and MX compound, which is crazy because that's not even the actual series itself the you know the game's all about. I think these milestone games are way more capable of making more tracks into their game that's not the series title of the game. Do you understand what I'm saying? Some people get the idea of like, oh, well, if it's titled MXGP, then it just has to be all of the MXGP races. That's it, dude. Why do you expect anything else? And then some people that, when they look at the official Monster Supercross game, they think of it like, oh, well, it doesn't have to have anything else other than the official Supercross replica tracks, even though they went in there and added a fucking free ride national track DLC into that. So obviously they're capable of it, right? To all you idiots that are thinking like, oh, they can't do that because that's not the name of the game. It's like, dog, they can put whatever the hell they want to in it other than like stuff they don't have license to, but they can put their own motocross tracks in a Supercross replica game or their own Supercross tracks in the motocross replica game. They can do that. Like, I'm not just saying that to say that. They really can do that. So you might as well get that out of your head thinking, oh, well, it's this kind of game, so they can't put these kind of tracks in it. That's just being stupid, man. If you're thinking like that, you're being an idiot because they've already proven that they're capable of doing that. Like, seriously, man. They've already put Supercross tracks in their motocross-only series game and put motocross tracks and free ride tracks in their Supercross-only series game. So they're obviously capable of doing that. So my whole thing is like, why aren't they doing more of that, right? That's all I'm ever trying to say when I'm saying that. So, but as far as the whip system here, let's take a look, man. I don't know. It's just with this game, and like I said in my original whip update video to this game, it's like, yeah, it's cool that they're working on it. I mean, you got to give them a round of applause for continuing to try to improve some aspect of it, but I'm just like in a very confused, like, I don't even know what to say about this game anymore, state of mind with it, right? I feel like a lot of people have died off on this pretty quick. I feel like more people are playing the official Monster Energy Supercross game than are playing this, and it ain't just because of the tracks. It's because of the gameplay. It's because of the way it feels, and that's why you're seeing a lot of these updates, like, it's almost like they're putting a lot of the like official Monster Energy Supercross physics, trying to inject that into MXGP Pro at this point because they realized how shit this game was when it first came out as far as the way the bike felt and the whips and all that. So in the air, not the ground, okay? To some of you haters out there, like, let me clarify, I'm not talking about the entire game. I'm talking about in-air physics mainly, and like that weird little bizarre pop you off the bike shit like that, all that kind of stuff. Basically, I felt like the official Monster Energy Supercross game is the best milestone game physics they've had so far. I'm not saying it's where it needs to be. I'm just saying I feel like it was the best they've had so far. And I just suspected and expected that MXGP Pro would have just been like that, but better. It would have been like the official Monster Energy Supercross game, but just better, just more advanced. And it was ever so slightly as far as the ground physics, but everything else went backwards with it. So, right, like, it's just a matter of, holy God, yeah, you can definitely get to where you're turning way too early off of the jump phase trying to do a scrub or something like that, and it just won't do it. Like, you'll just fall off the bike before you even come off the ground. So it does seem to, it's definitely changed, and you can tell. Like I said before, you can definitely tell there's something going on with the rider, where the rider is, the feeling of it, the way you kind of pull up on the bike feels a little bit either quicker or slightly more extreme. I'm not so sure, but it's not like I'm sitting here thinking, oh, well, they just completely fixed the whips in this game. So you got to understand the issues with it. It's almost unfixable, right? Like, when you have a game where the whips feel like they're just hit a button and play an animation, there's really no fixing that, dog. You would just about have to go in there and make a whole new game to fix that. So you're never going to, all the people that are thinking like, oh, well, maybe they're going to come out with one of these updates and the whips and MXGP Pro is just going to be fixed. It's really not. That's really an impossible task because you need like a whole new entire physics system to make that work. They need to scrap all this and start from scratch as far as the air side of their physics, if they ever want to make it like what I consider a good air physics, good whip physics motocross game. They're going to have to scrap this shit because there's no easy fix for it, man. So that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. There's not a whole lot they can do with updates. I mean, I applaud them for trying at this point, right? any company that tries after their games come out, I will applaud them till the absolute bitter end, just for the simple fact that they're trying to work on it, right? Like, I applaud Milestone for doing that. I applaud Hello Games for doing that with No Man's Sky and all the other game companies that have done that. Hell, even, MX vs. ATV for some of their DLC they're trying to come out with, and the terrain deformation updates they're trying to do, right? Like, I get all that, and I respect it, and I love them for doing it, but I can still, like, disagree and not exactly think that it's the best thing ever, right? Get what I'm saying? So this right here, like, yeah, it's changed. Yeah, it feels a little bit different. Yeah, you can tell the difference when you first get into it, but it's nothing, like, major. It's nothing insane. It's nothing that's going to make you, if you're already kind of done with the game, already thinking you're not really wanting to play it, already kind of getting tired of the air physics or not really liking them too much or kind of straying away from it or whatever, this is not something that's going to make you come back to the game. Like, I can already just tell you that right now. It's just not. To some of the hardcore fans of this game that are still playing it, like, you might notice a little bit of a difference, right? But it ain't like revolutionary shit here. This ain't like it's going to bring back a crap load of people. Like, I know some people were kind of asking me that on Steam and stuff. They're like, oh, dude, have you checked out that new whip update? Like, is it really going to make me want to come back to the game? And, like, I'm just straight up telling you honestly right now, like, it's probably not. The MXGP Pro it's almost to an unfixable place at this point. The actual physics of it, they're just, I don't know how to explain it, man. What they need to do, this is what they need to do right here. They need to somehow take the ground physics of this, right, perfectly mix it with basically all the other physics system of the official Monster Energy Supercross game. I'm talking about for their next game, right? And go in there and totally scratch the whip system they've got going, the whip animation part of it, right? Go in there, totally scrap that, totally reinvent that from the ground up, make it to where you actually have to have finesse. There's multiple different types of whips you can do. Give us the being able to change our whip controls to where it's both sticks the same way to throw a whip and the opposite way to do an oppo turn-up whip, but not just as simple as just turning both thumbsticks one direction and doing it and playing an animation. It needs to actually be a real feel, like it takes you a minute to actually even get the bike rotated without crashing in the game and stuff like that. That they've got to start advancing that, because I'm telling you right now, I understand whips aren't as big of a deal like in real life riding if you're more of like an amateur rider and whatnot, but as far as a video game, they are more serious once you become pro in real life and then you become like a freestyle rider and all that. I get it. To some people that's like, oh, well, whipping like that's not even that realistic, man, and shit like that. For a video game, it's something you almost have to have, because I don't even know how to explain it, but like, there's just something about the way it improves your in-air physics, being able to whip properly in a motocross game. It's like they almost go hand in hand. Your whip physics and your in-air physics, if either one of those is jacked, it's almost like it jacks your entire in-air system if your whip system is not gelling properly. So that's something they've got to get figured out, and they've got to get more of the bigger jumps on certain tracks. I'm not saying every track has to have it, but they got to have some tracks that's got upwards of a, like 200-foot jump, 150-foot jump, something like that, giving you more of an actual in-air feeling to the game. That's something the Milestone game's been missing a little bit. But yeah, hopefully they can get that figured out, dude. I'm really hoping so. But as far as this particular update, I mean, like that right there, like what in the fuck? Like, came off the ground for 1.25 seconds and landed it basically perfectly. I barely landed on a flat landing and it just popped me off instantly. It's just so weird how they have that in the game. It's like this is what it feels like they did right there. How everybody was complaining in the official Monster Energy Supercross game, like there's no risk to coming up short, there's nothing that happens, you never fall off the bike for coming up short or over jumping something. It's like they just like wadded up this system and just threw it in there, this system of like, okay, if your suspension barely hits like the maximum compression of your suspension, then you just instantly die. It's like they just wadded that idea up and threw it in the game real quick to make it kind of like, more like a risk. But in all reality, it just feels like there's hardly any work been put into it. It feels like there's zero, I don't know even how to explain it. It's almost like your suspension will just completely explode off the smallest of small jumps. It's almost to the level of like being a bug at this point, and it's been that way from the very get-go, and they've tried to kind of improve on it here and there, but it's like a game that is trying, they're just trying too hard in certain aspects, and they don't understand the finesse. There's such a missing element of finesse in the Milestone motocross game, especially MXGP Pro. It's just totally missing that side of it. There's finesse in the cornering. See, that's where they do have finesse. You know how when you go into a corner, you got to actually like think about what you're doing. That back wheel will kind of start sliding a little bit. You got to have that finesse with throttle control, all that kind of stuff. It's there in the corners. And all of you motherfuckers out there know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, apply that to their in-air physics. Apply that to the actual jumping side of it and landing part of it. You know, you'll start to realize how it's totally lacking on that side of it in the Milestone games. You know, you can compare it pretty much directly like that when you really think about it. So one thing I am noticing is it does seem to, it's like it's maybe a little bit more fluent coming off of the jump phase, a little bit more like a little bit more maybe predictable, you know, a little bit more fluent. It doesn't seem like you can whip it and it almost like turn all the way backwards quite as easily as it used to. So it's almost like they're kind of trying to like hone it down a little bit, make it look a little bit more realistic, fluent coming off the jump phase. That may be what it is. I don't really know. I don't know, man. Either way, I hope I tried to go in here and explain that the best I possibly could. But yeah, there is a whip update to it, kind of filling on the rider, some sort of physics update to some degree. But all in all, is it major? Not really. I mean, all in all, like with this new update here, yeah, you can tell it's definitely changed. You can tell just the entire physics in general feels a little bit different, like the way the rider feels and the way it looks and kind of how you go through the corners, and just overall it is different. But honestly, I can't really even say it's all that much better. Like, it just feels more different than anything. You know, it's not like I'm over here going, oh, well, that's totally fixed everything, or that's so much better. It's just different. I don't know. That's the only way to explain it, man. It just feels a little bit different. Not even really like it's like all that much better or anything. Just different. So either way, man, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.